Hi, this is Kevin. It's come to my attention that some of our students are having problems in the exercises, Chapter 10, Exercise 3. And that's where we take our model that we have created with the diagrammer and try to forward engineer it into a script. And the problem apparently is in version 6.3.9 of the MySQL Workbench, that forward engineering doesn't work anymore, that it's been broken. And a couple of students have had some workarounds for that, and most people were able to get this thing done. But I still have some emails from people who said that they just, even with the workarounds, they weren't able to get it done. So I'm here to demonstrate how to get it done in the most reliable way that I know. Okay? I'm going to be giving you some extra time to get this handed in so that you can get full credit. All right? So what have we got? Well, I currently am showing my Windows version, and this is Windows 10. And what I've installed on it is Workbench version 6.2.5. So if we go over to Help, About Workbench, 6.2.5.0, build 397. And I've been posting for a while that that's the one that I use. Okay? And I've been using that, I think, for, let's say, a couple of semesters, and I never went ahead to the newer version. Okay? Now, in order to see what problems you guys were having, I did, in fact, go and install the newer version, and I could see that it had the problem that people reported. And it seemed to have that problem both in Windows and on the Mac. So then I went and I found this older release, 6.2.5, and I installed it both on the Mac and on the Windows, and I was able to make it work as expected in both places. So I just want to show you how it works as expected. I'm going to open my oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to open that. What I want to do is I want to open the model that I did for exercise 10-2. Okay, so I'm going to open that in the diagrammer, and you'll say, hey, that's what we were supposed to do for exercise 2. And now I want to do that forward engineering thing. Okay, well, let's look. We go up to the menu, we click on database, and then forward engineer. And okay, let's click on next. Okay, and what kind of things should we click on over here? There are two things that I want you to click on. I want you to click on drop objects before each create objects, and especially generate drop schema. I want to make sure you get that in. Okay? The rest of the things aren't really going to be important for us. Okay, and then we did it next, and we came to the next page, and it's only going to do the table objects because we don't have any of these other kinds of objects, which is the reason we only have the checkbox to export the table objects. So now we click on next. And here's where it went wrong for most people with the newest version of Workbench. And in fact, it seemed to be wrong in a lot of the newer versions of Workbench. So if you want to save it to a file, here I'm going to send it to downloads. And let me say, I'm going to call it exercise 10 3. Okay, something like that. And I'm going to save. Now I have to remember to click on next to actually have it done. And now I'm going to close. All right. So that probably got a lot farther than a lot of you got. And now I'm just going to close this whole diagrammer. And I'm going to open up the normal connection. So we've opened up a connection. And this is an old test. Let me get rid of that. And let me get rid of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find that file that I created, that script. Okay. Oh. And I'm in downloads, and I have ex103.sql. That's it. Open it. Okay. And you'll notice that it starts off with the drop schema if exists. It's really important that when we forward engineer these, that we have that in the beginning of the script. Okay, because for instance, if we already have a copy of the schema here, then we want to drop it. Like I already have one here called schema 10, so it's going to drop it. If I don't already have one, well, it's not going to drop it. And that's exactly the way we want to be doing these kinds of scripts that set up the database. So I can just go up here. I don't want to only run that drop. I want to run the whole thing. So I'm going to unhighlight things and click the lightning bolt. And now that's run fine. And as you can see, when it dropped my schema, it went away in this list of schemas. But if I refresh, we'll see that schema 10 is there again. And I've got it. And the 3 tables are there and the whole bit. Okay, so that worked fine. Now, so the version that we want is, again, let's go up to help, about Workbench. We want 6.2.5. Okay. Now, a number of people said they couldn't find it, so let's go find it. All right. So let's open up a browser. And let's say that we want to find MySQL Workbench download. Okay. So dev mysql.com, that looks about right. And let's try to make this a little bit bigger. See how it goes. 6.3.9, well, that's the newest, and that's a problem. Okay. So this is what we call the current GA version. It's the generally available release. It's not the case that every version that they create is considered a GA version. The GA versions are more stable. They've been tested longer. Okay? So 6.3.9 is a GA version. Unfortunately, it doesn't allow us to do everything that we want to do with the product. That it got in the way of exercise 10.3. It will get in the way of your final project. Okay? So you probably want to back off of 6.3.9 and go to 6.2.5. So just here to the right, Okay, and it doesn't matter if you're on Mac OS or Windows. Typically, when you go to the page where you download MySQL Workbench, it'll show you the version for the operating system that you're in. Okay, and then just to the right of it, looking for previous GA versions. Yes, I am. Click on that. And what does it bring up? 6.2.5. Okay, and then the previous GA version before that, 6.1.7. Now, it is possible to hunt around and get versions in between. And let me tell you, I went and I tested out a number of versions in between these two, and I had problems in some way or other with all of them. Okay, so I came here, I downloaded 6.2.5, and I installed it. Now, on the Mac, I was able to install it over top of the one that I already had. On Windows, I had to go down and find out how to uninstall the version that I already had. I just went down to search down here, and I went to I said uninstall, and it gave me this apps and features, and I came up here. No, that's not the one that I picked. So let's try uninstall again. Uninstall. Let's try programs and features. Yeah, that was it. And what I did is I came down here and I found MySQL Workbench, and of course it was the newer one, and I had that here, and I clicked on uninstall. So I had to uninstall the old one before I was able to install the new one. Okay, and I installed it, and it just worked just fine. While I was doing all this, I took the opportunity to upgrade my version of the server software to the newest version. So the newest version of the server software, let's find that, MySQL Community Edition. I went and found that. I found that the community server was 5.7.18, and I had 5.7.17. So I figured, oh, what the heck, why don't I get the newest version? And I installed those on both sides. It's a little bit easier for me to do that on Mac, because I've been working predominantly on Mac now for about 3 or 4 years, and I'm not as sharp on Windows as I used to be. But I did get it to work on Windows, and everything worked just fine. And so the two versions that I have here, again, if we go back to Workbench, you'll see that the version of Workbench that I have is 6.2.5.0, right? And that if you go into Workbench and you click on server status, you'll see that I'm currently using this with version 5.7.18 of the MySQL community server. Okay, so that's it. That should solve all your problems. Okay. If I were you, I wouldn't change my server version. If I was already on 5.7.17, I figured it'll probably work just fine. Until I see that I have some problems, then I might go to 5.7.18. But you definitely are going to need to back off to the previous stable release of Workbench in order to be able to do that forward engineering thing. And again, why do you need to do that forward engineering thing? Well, if I were you, I would want to be able to use that to create the schema for my database in the final project. Okay, can you create it by hand as either a single or a bunch of scripts? Sure you can. Okay, we're learning how to do it in class. Unfortunately, I think that's a lot more work. For me, for my money, I would rather use the diagrammer and do forward engineering. Now, your mileage is going to vary. But if you want to do that, then you're going to want to back off a version on the Workbench. Okay? So that's how it works. That's how to find it. That's how all this stuff is. I did the same stuff on Mac OS, actually before I did it on Windows, and I got that working just fine. And I have given you guys an extension on this Chapter 10, Exercise 3 until the end of the day on the 7th. That's this coming Friday. Okay, so give it all a shot. You're going to need the capability for your project anyway, and I want you to get full credit. And if you're a person who already handed it in, right? If you already handed in your work for Chapter 10 and you weren't able to get it to work, but you handed in it to meet the deadline, then take the time to get it to work and hand it in so you'll get all the points. Okay? All right. That's it for me. See you soon. Bye.